Our team had the topic of social media. Our team consists of Amanda Clark, Alexandria Jones, myself, Katie Jackson, and Rihanna Roberts. So to start this presentation, I wanted to provide some updated trends and problems with social media in our world, and more specifically in the news today. I'm sure everyone in this class already knows the definition of social media, but I'm just going to say it to give everyone a refresher. According to Learning English, social media is websites and applications that let users create and share content or to participate in social network. As of 2016, 2/3 of adults get their news from social media, according to Forbes, and 62% of adults receive news on social media, and of those 62%, 18% do so often. Charts are on the demographic user participation for social media when it comes to the news. So the first chart on the left is the more of the demographic profile, and you'll see that Facebook has a larger amount of females when it comes to site news users than male. You'll also see that YouTube has a larger amount of males. Twitter has a larger amount of females. And Instagram, you'll see the biggest difference between male and female, with 65% being female and only 35% being male. LinkedIn is also higher male. But overall, social media is 52% female and 48% male when we're looking at the demographics of social networking for site news users. So I kind of want to clarify that the charts that I'm going to be talking about in news, not social media in general, when you're reaching out for that social media that you want to get news articles and things like that on social media. So the largest age group on Facebook is 30 to 49 when it comes to seeking the news. YouTube is 18 to 24. Twitter is 30 to 49. Instagram is 18 to 29. And LinkedIn is 30 to 49. Overall, social media's largest age groups is in first 30 to 49, in second 50 to 64, and in third 18 to 29. I found it surprisingly because you typically think that when you think of social media, you think more dominant of the millennial generation, but when it comes to news, you have a higher amount of the older people seeking out news on social media. I mean, in second place was 50 to 64, so that really shows how the age difference is different when it comes to news on social media and not just general social media. From another study by Pew Research on social media users in the news, of the users that they studied, 50% had in their time shared an article or an image or a video or some type of news on their social media. 46 had discussed a news issue or event, so they might have commented, had some kind of communication. 14% posted a photo they took of a news event, and 12% posted a video they took of a news event. So next I want to move on to some updated trends for social media when you're looking into 2017. The first trend that I want to talk about is 5 trends that Forbes reported on for 2017, what they really see happening in social media. The first is social messaging. Millennials prefer communication methods that are more personable. It's been proven. They like the OTT, over-the-top messaging, SMS messaging. Millennials want that personal engagement, and 62% are more loyal to brands who use SMS and OTT. So the first thing that we're going to see as a trend is social messaging. The second is fighting against fake news. People are over fake news. We've seen it. Germany's actually taken legislation against fake news when it comes to social media. I don't really want to go too far in depth in this because we're going to touch on it later, but that's the second trend. The third is authentic content. People want to see something authentic, and one way that's currently being done is live content, such as Facebook Live. And the next is augmented reality, like the Snapchat selfie lens or Pokemon, which is a huge hit as well. And the last are chatbots, which are when computers have connections with you, such as like automatic replies, and instead of a user engaging. So an example I would give would be on Facebook. If you have a company social media page and you often are messaged by users, I know this happens a lot at my work. Well, Facebook has made it possible now where there's chat bots, and we're trying to use that at our work now, where you can make predetermined responses. So if someone messages you, like for example on the weekend, you can turn it on so it'll say, sorry, we are away it's the weekend, but we'll get back to you as soon as we can on Monday. HubSpot reported on 7 trends that they believe will change social media in 2017. The first is live video content growth. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram are all having live content. Brands are doing like customer service demonstrations, video series, you name it, they're going live. The second is the power of messaging apps. People are getting their question answered by things like Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, and WeChat. Using social media for e-commerce, we'll see people making real sales off of social media. The idea of virtual reality, like 360 videos. And Tom's had a really good virtual tour on that. Their giving tour, they really did a good job of doing that in a 360. If you haven't seen it, I really encourage you to go check it out. The next is disappearing content. Snapchat kind of started that with their Snapchat stories. But we're also going to see things change from Snapchat stories to more of Instagram. We're going to see that switch happen. And I've already seen that kind of happen at my work. We're doing Instagram stories more than we are Snapchat stories. And the last is social media advertising. Things are becoming more and more competitive, with there being Instagram having advertising opportunities and Snapchat and not just Facebook. Also see mobile advertising is taking the lead. Facebook's revenue for advertising, 80% was from mobile advertisements last year. So some of the problems with social media. The first problem, according to Pro and Con, is the spread of unreliable and false information. We all have seen that social media can create the spread of false information. The second is the lack of privacy. What you put out there is truly out there and out there forever, even if you delete it. Social media does not always create conversation around the important news issues for the day. Pew Research Center did some research on that, and they found that just because the news was out there, it didn't mean that was the most important news that people need to be listening to. The National Public Radio's Ethics Handbook has been created for social media, and they've created this to try to address some of the problems with social media. Their first is accuracy, the spread of information, consulting the social media team, the images you post, and following up online. If you want to be accurate, those are tips that they suggest that you do. The second is that you need to be honest. There's no privacy on the web, according to NPR, so honesty is key. The third is independence. Consider your terms of service. Whatever terms of service your organization creates, whether you're in a news organization or a company doing your social media, make sure you're sticking to that. The next is impartiality. You need to be not advocating for political and social issues if you're a news organization on a social media site, is what NPR has decided. Accountability. Social media is a public space. You should protect yourself and consider the legal actions that you can have, because you can be sued for what you do on social media. Respect. You need to be considerate of community norms. And last, excellence. NPR stresses to their constituents and to everyone else that you should use the same diligence when you're using social media for news as you should for any other site that you would do news on, whether that's print or online. So some more problems with social media. Social media can have an impact on political news, and that can be good and bad. The majority of millennials posted their political opinion on social media during this election, and 35% of people from 18 to 29 said that social media was the most helpful source of information when it came to political news. This increased risk of digesting information from questionable sources can be a negative problem with social media. The idea of fast thinking, where you gather bits of information from sources, but where did they actually come from? The thought of, did I get this information from the water cooler when we were looking at an article on social media and it was their interpretation, or was it actually something that New York Times wrote on social media? Another example of this can be if you think about was it something that a reputable news organization wrote on social media, or is it something that my great aunt Sally wrote, and is that her opinion, or is that a real unbiased political opinion? Another problem with social media is the cons of the 24-hour news cycle. Social media creates a 24-hour news cycle, and news on social media can contain no value because of that 24-hour cycle. News organizations are trying to constantly publish things, put things out there, and that can create things like articles on celebrity gossip. We can also, because of the 24-hour news cycle, see the basic facts instead of stories that include more support material like quotes and statistics. You're trying to get those news stories out fast, and you're not taking the time to really get those quality pieces. And last, news stories that used to be considered minor news have become major news. So back in the day, when you printed a newspaper, you only had one front page. But since you can post all day, there's an unlimited amount of front pages when it comes to social media.
This part of our social media presentation will be on verifying your news. What does that mean? Fake news. So here's a look at an article that was posted probably by a very conservative-leaning site claiming that President Obama has signed an executive order that would ban the Pledge of Allegiance in schools nationwide. Now, as we all know, that's completely and totally untrue. If that were to happen, I'm sure all of us would have received AP push alerts confirming that information. This is obviously untrue. Here's a look at another article from Royal.uk claiming that Queen Elizabeth II has passed away, and they even go as far as to claim that the statement was issued by the press secretary to the Queen, and it quotes Prince Charles. Obviously, that is not true either. We all know that Queen Elizabeth II is very much alive and well. So, all in all, there are three kinds of fake news as defined by BBC. The first is deliberately spread false information. This can be done by people who have little regard for the truth and want to start an argument or create an inflammatory response. The second kind is accidentally spread false information. For example, this could be done by journalists unintentionally who are reporting information that hasn't been verified because of the need to report content first and be the first. When we run into that issue, it calls into question journalistic practices. And the third, according to BBC, is any news that causes our current president discomfort. They have noted that President Trump has automatically banned any news that he doesn't agree with and branded them as fake news like CNN and NBC. This is obviously very different than intentionally false information that we just discussed. However, even though these three are very different, all three of them threaten the jobs of journalists. If the public can't trust us to do our jobs without thinking all of it is fake and fabricated, then we're fighting an uphill battle. So, in my mind, there are three easy steps to verify your news so that we don't run into this problem. The first one is do your homework and examine the source or the outlet that posted this information. Are they verified? Take a look at the journalist or the source's verification on their page. Do they seem to be a pretty prominent figure? If not, then it might be fake. Take a look at their retweets or their reposts on Facebook and Twitter. Check out their followers and who they follow. If they don't follow or are followed by reputable journalists and sources, they may be a fake. And also take a look at their Contact Us and About page. Oftentimes, I've found that any article that's slightly questionable, I can trace it back to their Contact Us or About page and dig a little deeper. Legitimate news sources will have this page fleshed out and it will give you all the answers you need. Fake news sites don't have that information. The second tip is, does it sound plausible? Is the article you're reading two-sided? Does it fit together? Are the sources similar? And is it intentionally inflammatory? One that really sticks out to me on this list is, are all the sources similar? If you have all of your sources saying the same or very similar things and don't have an opposing viewpoint, that's a big red flag, because as journalists, we're trained and we're taught to be aware of both sides of the story and to remain unbiased. And the last one I like to look at is the story comments. Do all the commenters say the same thing, or are there spam comments? I've noticed that verified news outlets such as CNN and NBC will have fewer spam comments because they'll have the resources and the ability to sift through them and get rid of them if necessary. Those fake news sites often won't. Now, here's how you fight it. Here's how we fight back. Google Fact Check have already taken the first step and they're already trying to fight back. With Google Fact Check, you can see that here's an example on this page. It's already been launched globally, and anything you search will include a snippet that shows the source of a claim that's being fact-checked, the fact-check entity rating that claim, and the ruling of that fact-checker. So you can see on this one, it's on the phone to the right, down towards the bottom, where you can see the claim, symbols embossed on the exterior surfaces of Oreo cookie link the product to the alleged conspiratorial activities. It's claimed by the internet, and it's fact-checked by Snopes, and you can see that it's false. This process involves algorithms. Now let's take a look at Facebook. A lot of us spend a lot of our time on Facebook. And Facebook is currently working with factcheck.org, Snopes, and other organizations to create an algorithm that will help filter this fake news out of your feed so you don't even have to see it. Also, I put the trending topics up here. This is mine from the day that I grabbed this screenshot. And this is actually different than what it would have been a couple of months ago, because there was that Facebook trending topics was filtering out some of the conservative sites. It turns out that it was, and the people in charge of that algorithm were fired, and it was replaced with a new kind of trending topic. This one is a bit more uniform across the board rather than being tailored to a specific person. And this brings us to your specific role in fighting fake news. And there are two tips that I like that I'm a really big fan of. One, use your brain. If it seems fishy to you, it probably is. If you have any doubts, go look at their About or their Contact Us page and do a little digging. You'll find a lot of answers that way. And the other thing you can do is report on social media. Both Facebook and Twitter have the ability to report suspicious content. And what that means is that if you see something that's fake news, flag it, they'll review it, and they'll get rid of it if they deem it necessary. And when all else fails, here's a list of fake news sites. Now, this is in by no way, shape, or form comprehensive, but it does give you a good look at what kind of sites are being flagged as being fake news and being inflammatory. And if you come across any on this list, then you'll know that it's fake and it's not legitimate.
User engagement and how to maximize user engagement. In order to maximize engagement, it's important to build a brand. So let's go into branding through social media strategies. The brand through social media? Here are some examples from a few of my favorite popular accounts. Andrew Radar is a SpaceX employee who built a brand around space facts and getting the younger generation interested in space through his website and books. Brandon Statton built a brand around interviewing everyday individuals in New York and tells their story in every post. The Frugal Traveler is a helpful guide to anyone with wanderlust and a tight budget. Richard Branson is, of course, a very well-known entrepreneur who is known for positive, uplifting messages to encourage everyone to aim for the stars. So, what makes these accounts so popular? They educate, are relatable, give helpful tips, and send out positivity. Now, let's get into how everyone can build an empire through social media. Keep it consistent and interesting. Choose your brand and stick to it. Audiences like consistency, so if you're going to post about your adorable dog, don't sway away from that and post about what you ate that day. If you keep it to a consistent brand, eventually you could potentially make a living off of something as simple as taking photos of you and your partner holding hands through your travels. Always remember, everything that you post on social media impacts your brand. Keep it interesting, but keep it consistent. Step 2 in engagement. Build and manage your followers. This is my own personal trick and what I've done to build a massive amount of engagement. First, follow, follow, follow. The best way to build followers is through Twitter and Instagram. Follow accounts relevant to yours who are active. How do you do this? When a popular account similar to your own posts a tweet or an image on Instagram, instantly follow those who retweeted or liked and watch your own followers soar. Once you start building a following through these outlets, you can then promote your Facebook account. Facebook is stricter on adding numerous strangers, so best idea is to avoid that. Yes, you can also pay to promote on Facebook, but Why do that when it's free through other social media networks? Now you have to ensure that you can keep following mass accounts. In order to ensure this, you must keep your own follows lower than your followers. For this, within 24 to 48 hours, you'll need to unfollow mass accounts. I like to use Manage Flitter or Unfollow apps on my mobile device, so you can manage on the go. I also suggest that you unfollow inactive users so you can follow more accounts. You can manage inactive users on these unfollow apps as well. Repeat this on a daily basis and your followers will climb through the roof. Now, why is this important? The more legitimate active followers that you have, the more engagement. This can be time-consuming, but it's free and easy to build a brand and maximize engagement through this tactic. This is my own tactic for growing engagement, and it definitely works. 3. Post engaging content. Utilize GIFs, 360 virtual reality videos, and short descriptive videos. If you're going to use videos, keep the videos to 30 seconds to 1 minute long. Individuals tend to have short attention spans on social media, so you need to attract the audience as fast as possible. More engaging content includes utilizing hashtags, polls, games, contests, and giveaways, asking questions to create discussions, utilizing mentions, and live posts during an event. In summary, in order to maximize engagement, you first need to build a brand and keep it consistent. Constantly build and manage your followers and post engaging content through out-of-the-box and visual content.
On Facebook, if you have at least 10,000 followers, posting twice a day maximizes clicks and engagement on your content. Engagement on a Facebook post is stated for 90 minutes, so starting with the mid-afternoon schedule helps. If you're struggling to get likes, try posting in the morning so your posts don't get lost on the news feed. If you're using Twitter as a marketing tool, tweeting 50 times a day isn't going to help you. It's just going to take up time out of your day from focusing on other things related to your brand. A few tweets a day keeps engagement consistent and people still interested. A few tweets a day increases audience engagement, and you'll have plenty of time left in the day to focus on the other things related to your brand. Brands need to be consistent with posting pictures on Instagram. If you're just beginning and you want to maximize engagement and generate followers, you can start posting on Instagram several times a day, but that won't negatively affect your Instagram account until you actually gain followers, and then you have to keep that consistency going. If you're posting a few pictures a day and then you start to drop off, your followers are going to notice, and then that's how you end up losing followers. Depending on how often you post, that's how often you need to keep posting every day to keep the consistency going and keep your followers and your consumers engaged. If you're using Pinterest, spread out your pins throughout the day. The best day to post is Saturday evening between 8 and 11 p.m. with the peak time of 9 p.m. If brands want their pins to stay relevant and easy to find, include hashtags in your pin. Different industries work well on different days, so if you're just beginning, play around with pinning to figure out what day and time works best for your pins. Bring your Facebook followers in with something that grabs their attention. Either a graphic or 2 sentences tops helps. Make your post sound exciting and give the reader a reason to click the link. Instead of using images, videos also work well too. Instant video playback on your post keeps the viewer engaged and interested in your product. Twitter is limiting, so you have to think of something quick, funny, and catchy to say in 140 characters. Hashtags are really useful for joining or starting a Twitter conversation or a Twitter chat with your followers. On Pinterest, look at other photos for inspiration on how to apply different marketing techniques to sell a product's usefulness to your consumers. As a brand, this is the platform that'll help you convince your audience to purchase your product. Now with Instagram's photo album update, it's easier to post several photos at once. Show off a product's features using keywords and hashtags to get the message out. Another option for Instagram would be to show someone actually using the product. That way, anyone who's looking at the photo or video can get a better understanding of how your product is supposed to be used.